my name is Michelle Shockley, and this is my video presentation over how American popular music has misappropriated American Indian culture. As everyone is aware, Native Americans have experienced pain and suffering in the past at the hands of the settlers. This was their land before Christopher Columbus discovered America. They were murdered by the masses and tortured for their land. In today's society, the schools teach history from the settlers' point of view as opposed to the Native Americans. Due to this and other factors, there are major misconceptions about Native American people and their culture. American popular music played its part in misappropriating the American Indian culture. I will be discussing several terms that have roles in this misappropriation. The terms that I'll be discussing are cultural misappropriation, singing redface, blackface minstrelsy, playing Indian, racial antipathy, idealized sympathy, and cultural confusion. Before getting into the other terms, I first want to discuss the difference between cultural misappropriation and cultural appropriation. Culture appropriation is a positive thing as it allows us to learn and experience other cultures. However, cultural misappropriation is something very different. It is essentially the theft of another culture. The difference is cultural appropriation allows us to share our culture with one another, and cultural misappropriation is when a certain culture is stolen by another. Now that we have a full understanding of the meaning, I can start discussing the different terms that I previously listed. The first term I will discuss is blackface minstrelsy. It was disgraceful, and we know that it was disgraceful. It was people who would dress up in blackface, so they would paint their face black, and then they would pretty much mock African Americans. It was extremely popular back in the day. It actually, as stated in the indigenous music of Turtle Island, it was one of the most popular forms of entertainment ever to be performed in the United States. Today, it is known that blackface minstrelsy was extremely offensive, and it is now considered taboo. However, our society is still normalizing events like these. Blackface is heavily scrutinized in today's society, but the same thing is being done now to Native Americans. The Native American culture is openly mocked by singing redface, yet it continues to be popular. Singing redface, what that is, it refers to the act of becoming native in musical performance, as noted in the indigenous music of Turtle Island. Again, it was noted in the indigenous music of Turtle Island that just as minstrel blackface performances developed racial archetypes by displaying blackness, singing redface occurs when a non-native person takes on a racial archetype of a Native American character through song. Singing redface artists have promoted racial slurs, mock Indian languages, and inauthentic Native American music. In order to become Native, artists literally and figuratively dress up as Indians in live performance, music videos, album covers, and song lyrics. This is a prime example of cultural misappropriation. It's not only that the non-natives take on the role of a native person, but it's the way they do it. They mock Native Americans, and they do not accurately portray their culture. An example of singing redface is the song Indian Giver. It was sung by many different artists, and even though the lyrics don't refer to Native American culture outright, it does include the stereotypical melodies of fake Indian music, as noted in the indigenous music of Turtle Island. Singing redface is extremely offensive to Native Americans, and understandably so. However, it does continue to be popular in our society, even though we are aware that blackface minstrelsy was wrong, and this is very similar. In order to understand how singing redface continues to be so popular, I will explain what playing Indian is and what role it plays in the misappropriation of the Indian culture. While watching Real Injun, I learned that in the past, many Native American roles were actually filled by white actors and actresses. However, playing Indian goes beyond that. As noted in the book, The Indigenous Music of Turtle Island, more than any other social performance that involves pretending to be another race, the idea of playing Indian is reinforced by the incredibly popular theme of becoming Indian. In countless popular American stories, white boys, white girls, white men, white women, and occasionally people of different colors are not only accepted into an Indian tribe, not only become a citizen of an Indian nation, but actually magically become Indian. The idea of playing Indian was incorporated in many different shows and movies. One of those movies actually being Peter Pan. Playing Indian, blackface minstrelsy, and singing redface all tie into each other. Our society looks past the stereotypes that singing redface brings due to how ingrained the concept of playing Indian is in our brains. Ever since we were children, we've always played Indian, cowboys and Indians. It's something that's ingrained in all of us. Even though our society is very much aware that blackface minstrelsy was wrong, we overlook the fact that we are still allowing similar happenings to the Native Americans due to this normalizing of playing Indian. The discussion over those topics brings us to the next term, racial antipathy. As seen in Real Injun, there was a time when Indians were only portrayed as savages in movies. They were viewed as the ones keeping true Americans from settling on their land. Native Americans were never portrayed as educated. They were never portrayed as heroic or the good guys in films. They were always portrayed as uneducated savages that attacked the good guys. The attitude behind the famous words credited to Philip Henry Sheridan, "The only good Indian is a dead Indian," fueled the violence of the American Indian Wars and sums up the manifest destiny-driven biases against Native Americans found in many westerns in the 1940s and 50s, as noted in The Indigenous Music of Turtle Island. When a certain culture is portrayed a certain way in the media and movies, that persona tends to stick in our minds even if it is completely inaccurate. With inaccurate representations of Native Americans throughout history, they have gained an image that is not really theirs. Another term that has played its part in the misappropriation of Native American music is idealized sympathy. Idealized sympathy is a little different. It refers to music that actually sympathizes with the Native American people. However, even though these songs are sympathizing with the Native Americans, they're harmful. They inaccurately describe the Native American culture. They still use stereotypes regarding the Native American culture. And even though they're sympathetic, they are harmful due to these stereotypes. And sympathy is not what the Native Americans are looking for. They want to be treated equally and to be represented accurately. Even though it may seem that these artists are doing what is right by sympathizing with them, they are actually still hurting the overall goal of equality. The last term I'm going to discuss is cultural confusion. Due to years and years of misinformation, people are just confused on what truly makes up the Native American culture. Over the years, an Indian was an Indian. No one ever took the time to realize that there are many different tribes and that they're not all the same. They're very different. As noted in the book, The Indigenous Music of Turtle Island, it is not a lack of knowledge about Native Americans that causes such cultural confusion about what is authentic information, but a deluge of false information that has spread like a centuries-old virus throughout our stories, our entertainment, and our culture. This is a major issue. People tend to believe the information that they see on TV or that they read in newspapers. That is why it is essential that the information that is being relayed is accurate. The information that has been relayed over the years is so ingrained in our heads that it will take a lot of time and a lot of effort to re-educate ourselves with the correct information. It's going to be hard, but it's not going to be impossible.